Meantime, Canada's premiers are set to meet with the Prime Minister tomorrow to discuss how Canada should respond if President-elect Donald Trump follows through on his tariff threat. But one possible response, cutting off energy and critical mineral exports to the U.S., could prove to be a sticking point.
They're coming full tilt at us. I won't hesitate to pull out every single tool we have.
They will have a national unity crisis on their hands at the same time as having a crisis with our U.S. trade partners. We just won't stand for that.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has cautioned against blocking energy exports to the U.S. Ontario Premier Doug Ford has said that cutting off energy and mineral exports would be a last resort, but says that option should not be ruled out. Let's turn now to CTV's Colton Prale in Ottawa with more for us. Good morning to you, Colton. So we're getting a differing approach. That's what we're seeing from the premiers on handling the tariff threat from Trump. We don't seem to be speaking with one voice.
No, not at all. And this is part of the issue that you run into when you do this kind of negotiation through subnational representatives, through a subnational style. They're automatically going to have to, while they're not disregarding the needs of Canadians and Canada, they are also supposed to represent the needs of their specific residents, of Albertans or Ontarians or whichever premier it is that's speaking. And they have to think about their own provincial economies. They have to think about their own well-being. And while they may not be putting that first, or while they may not be putting that ahead of Canada, it's certainly something that they need to advocate for. And that's why you're seeing such a disconnect between certain premiers. If you look at the language that's being put forward by Danielle Smith or by Scott Moe, two premiers in central Canada who primarily export to the United States and who export incredibly valuable products. These are the type of products that certainly the federal government would want to use as potential retaliatory tariffs or as pain points for the U.S., whether that's oil exports or potash exports or uranium exports. These are very critical minerals or critical utilities for the American people and for the American government, and they are coming from central Canada. They're also equally critical to the GDP and to the economy of Saskatchewan and to Alberta. And so these provinces don't want to take a massive hit. They don't want to see Saskatchewan residents or Albertans being the ones hit hardest by an export tariff or by export restrictions. It's companies in those provinces that will suffer. It's workers in those provinces that will suffer in a trade war. And so that's why you see Danielle Smith and Scott Moe saying absolutely not. We shouldn't be considering these. We need to do it in a much more diplomatic way. We need to find a different way to move about this. It's also why you're seeing arguments from BC, for example, about not only considering blocking energy or blocking critical minerals, but expanding trade. That's something that's going to be beneficial for British Columbia. If Canada's suddenly trading much more through the Port of Vancouver or trading to, Eastern Asia through British Columbia, again, that's going to be beneficial for them. And so part of the challenge we're seeing that's created in large part due to the power vacuum in Ottawa is that there is so much subnational organization and subnational concentration of the diplomacy that you're going to get differing viewpoints because they each have different pain points. And that's where you need a unified national strategy. And that's where this meeting could be helpful. It's the first time in years that they're meeting in person where the Prime Minister is going to be there alongside with them. The last couple of years, he's been joining virtually. So this is a pretty significant meeting, but it's going to be very difficult to find any kind of unity, especially given the political situation that the Liberals are in this moment. It's why you have premiers like Scott Moe actively calling for an election now so that there is a government with a mandate to negotiate with Trump.
Right. Yeah, we'll be watching that meeting. And we should also tell our viewers we're going to be hearing from Doug Ford at some point this morning as well. Colton, thanks. Stay close. Keep us posted if you learn anything new today.